Hello everyone and welcome to the next video on this channel. My name is Peps and I welcome you to day 6 of the G1 Climax 35 review series. We have once again reached the next B block day. This time we are once again in Ward City Gymnasium and the attendance this time looked much better. We had over 2,200 fans, which is around 900 fans more than compared to yesterday, as well as it being nearly the same amount of people in the venue as were in 2023 in the Ward G1 Climax show, where they had Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay in the main event of the show. So I would personally judge this number as solid. Like, it's not a great number because great is like around 3,000, but I think it's a much better number than, I would say, the terrible one that they had yesterday. I don't know really what the reason here was, because Konosuke Takeshita versus Shingo Takagi as the main event is like not the strongest match like you can put out. I would imagine the sole reason just is that it was a weekend and people had more time, as well as if there's a double header, people would just choose one show because of the ticket pricing. So they decided to go to the Saturday show, likely because they had the time there and they likely thought the ticket was more worth the time. If the show was better than yesterday, we will talk about it. I would just say we quickly jump straight right into it. We had 4 matches, of course, because Gabe Kidd announced he's forfeiting all the matches. And with him forfeiting, New Japan just decided to give everyone that had the win or like had not wrestled Gabe Kidd yet the win instantly, which is why if we go later into the stats, that everyone has 2 points more than they have before the show. And New Japan made this official, so I just decided, okay, I will copy it, even though it maybe kind of looks kind of silly like in the spreadsheet, but we'll come to that later. We're kicking things off with Yoshihashi versus Great Okan. Yoshihashi comes into this match with an undefeated streak of 3 wins and 0 losses, as well as him now having the forfeit against Gabe Kidd, which makes him going in at 8 points. Like, he's at least landing at 8 points. I don't think I ever had this many points in 10 block system, 10 wrestler system per block in a New Japan G1 Climax. So it's already a personal best for him. And if he just wins one more match, he likely has a very high chance to go through to the knockout stage. And he's trying that here against Great Okan. And of course, Great Okan wants to stop the magic streak of Yoshihashi while scoring important points for himself after the devastating loss and a great effort for him against Konosuke Takeshita on the 4th night of G1 Climax. And I thought this match was like a typical Great Okan match from the get-go. Like, slow and nothing really happens in the opening minutes before they're picking up the pace once Yoshihashi gets his counters in. And from that moment on, it became quite good. Like, Yoshihashi countered the Eliminator a couple of times. Once he countered into a code breaker that looked really cool, and countered another Eliminator attempt with a throw, but he got hit with an elbow by Okan, and then the Eliminator goes through to stop the winning streak of Yoshihashi, and Great Okan scores 2 important points. I thought like this was a good to solid match, and this was like the perfect example of maybe the advantage that other wrestlers have with a match per show getting cut, and that's the case that you have people like in the undercard match, like Yoshihashi or Great Okan or everyone, get like more time to show and really build up the matches. And I think someone like Great Okan really profits from that, because he is a wrestler that takes his time to build up slowly his match. And then when they escalate the matches are becoming really good. But normally he doesn't really get the time to elevate his match to a certain level. But now with like Gabe Kidd's matches obviously being forfeit, so there's more time between the 4 matches, he is able to get to 2 or 3 more minutes per night that he needs to make his matches stand out a bit more. And I think you notice that especially here against Yoshihashi, like I think they went like 12 minutes or something. Like, you would imagine that they wouldn't go nearly as long. If there was a 5th match on the card instead of just 4, so there is that. And something I noticed throughout the G1 Climax with Great Okan is just how over and how popular he is with the crowd. Like, there was not a single G1 Climax match that he had personally that the crowd didn't cheer him on. And I think that is like a very interesting thing to follow through, because if he continues to perform like that in the big spots when he's motivated, like maybe they will continue trying to give him a lot of bigger spots. Because let's be real, this guy has won a lot, even though like nothing really he did was like this big thing, right? Outside of his Great Okan is going on a run thing last year in the G1 Climax, in terms of his single success. But, still, since coming back to New Japan from his excursion, he won 4 IWGP Tag Team Championships, 2 King of Pro Wrestling titles, and the World Television title. Like, this guy is getting the mid-card accomplishments. So I wouldn't be too shocked if they give him a try to a bigger singles victory down the line if he stays it over. But also for that, he needs to get more consistent in his performances. Then we go on to the second match on the card. We have the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Zack Jr. facing the New Japan Television Champion El Fantasmo in a singles match in the G1 Climax. And we had here the 2 foreigners that made a singles career of their own in New Japan, with of course ELP being a 2-time TV champion, multiple-time tag team champion, while Zack Jr. like nearly won everything that he can in New Japan. G1 Climax, New Japan Cup, IWGP World Championship twice, and as well as being the most dominant New Japan TV champion that we had so far. So it was kind of like the first TV champion versus the current TV champion, as well as, of course, the first TV champion being the IWGP World Champion. So it was kind of like a cool thing to see. And they kicked off with slow and enjoyable grappling with cool double count teasers. And they started to add a bit of haha bits, like where they made some light jokes. And I thought it didn't really fit into it what they were going for originally, but they kept it really short and went away quickly, because like it's just not what I want to see in the G1 Climax. And I think keeping it like that is not offensive at all and doesn't really hurt the match to me. Alpha Fantasmo then quickly went to the dive over the guardrail to the outside that he introduced in a match against Jeff Cobb at Battle in the Valley for the New Japan TV title, I believe. And I love this spot of Fury. Like, this spot looks so cool, but ELP has just reached a point for me where he just overkills it. Like, don't get me wrong, it's like a fantastic spot, but he shouldn't do that in every single G1 Climax match, in every single title match. You should save it for the most important moments. Like, this is a match you pull out in your biggest match. It's not in the second match of 4 on day 6 in the G1 Climax, in my opinion. Zack then started to hit Larry's. It kind of looked bad, but it was more of a bait to set up a counter when ELP was baited into the kind of Larry exchange, went for one of his own, but Zack countered it into the 6 submission that he also locked in against Umino that I mentioned last night. 2 days ago. 3 days ago? I don't know. Whenever the Umino vs. Zack match happened. But unlike Shota, ELP had like no real problem to escape it. And I will come to that point later. Because I think that, let me just bring it up right now. Like, ELP, and I think that is like my huge problem with him. He just rushes from spot to spot. Like, you were able to see that when he was not milking the very good armbar submission, the armbar triangle submission that Zack Jr. countered, got him into like a couple of minutes later. And instead of like trying to milk it and something and get the motions out of the crowd, like it took him like maybe 5 seconds, and he counters it into a powerbomb and then the CR2. No struggle, no pain, no emotions, just moves and nothing. And I think that is kind of like my issue with him these days. And that is, for me, the reason why it took it from me that I a bit until I got into this match. Zack then took out ELP with a hard slap and then hit the Zack driver to a great near full, followed up by a joke. And while ELP tried to counter it, Zack turned it around into a different version of the sleep, and ELP taps out at around 90 minutes. And, I need to admit, I was very low on ELP this year. I think, in general, in the G1 Climax, I don't think he had a great performance yet until this match. I thought, while I had my complaints about his struggles and how he rushes from spot to spot, it's just part of what ELP is. I think he had a really good match against Zack Jr. here. 90 minutes might be a bit too long, but they took every minute they needed, built up the spots well, placed them well, built up a drama and a struggle that I really enjoyed towards the end. And I think I enjoy ELP the most when he's not leading the match by himself, but rather someone else leading. Like Zag was able to get a lot of the ELP-isms, that's how I call them, out of the way that I personally just don't like, and was able to make it a Zack Sabre Jr. match. It is personally more for me. So overall, I would say this was a great match. It was maybe halted a bit by my personal enjoyment of what ELP does in the little things. And I think the more you analyze El Fantasmo, the more the match of his, like the matches of his breakdown for me personally. Then we go on between the battle of the two lost souls of the young guys in New Japan, Shota Umino versus Renorita, the guy who was originally meant to be the top face of the company versus the guy that turned to the dark side against Umino nearly 2 years ago. None of them is at the spot that you would expect it to be right now in 2025. I would say that both were overtaken in terms of performance by nearly everyone, especially Renorita, sadly, even though I really have enjoyed his tournament so far. And both have been like super underwhelming. But this one, like, I like Renorita a lot. Like I said, Shota Umino had this fantastic performance against Zack Jr. That was my match of tournament until the match later on tonight. And I thought this was the match where both needed to deliver, both needed to give their best. And, well, did they do that? I don't know, really. Narita decided to ditch his leg work and went right for the arm of Shota Umino to weaken Umino's lariats and arm-based offense, which I thought was a very cool idea, but then just nothing interesting happened for like 10 minutes. Like, they did typical leg work, they did some selling, they did that and that, but the crowd doesn't care once again about Renorita's limp work, instead of a couple of Umino shouts in between, like the 5 to 10 Umino fans that were there. And there was like zero reaction for the crowd for most of it, and they tried really hard. And I don't know what it is. Like, there's a big disconnect between Renorita and the crowds. And I think you noticed that when they shifted around the match and Umino decided to work it up, which seemingly worked because towards the end they started to cheer for Renorita. Like, there was a spot where Ren was put into extended submissions. And normally House of Torture is very quick with ringing the bell to distract him. But that here, they just tried to milk it. And I thought it was like very interesting. And it was like very much a purpose to get the crowd a bit more behind Renorita, because they noticed the other way around is not how this went. Then, of course, Kanemaru interfered, rang the bell, and that, of course, then got Renorita back into control for a little bit. In general, Umino was like presented as a guy that out-wrestled Renorita in every single minute of the match until the very end, when it was the most important. And that is where Renorita got through the low blow. After trying to cheat multiple times, trying to hit Renorita with the push-up bar, wasn't able to hit like multiple times, but in the end he was able to get through the low blow, hit the double cross, and immediately went for the Hell's Guillotine to win the match. And I said at the beginning, when I started to talk about this match, that they need to deliver. I don't think they did. I think it was solid. Like, I don't think it was like this failure of a match, and I think that they have a much better match in them, but I don't know what it is, right? I feel like they need to switch up something with Renorita's match layout, because the crowd is clearly not buying it, and Umino, also as the babyface, is not the best opportunist, or like the best opponent you can have for this. But it didn't also work out against anyone else he worked against, aside from the Yoshihashi, pretty much, which was a sprint, like 1 minute sprint, because they had like no extended leg work. Most of the Renorita matches so far in this tournament, or even before that, had like 0 reactions for 80% of the match, and that is like something they need to work on, because let's be real, that can work in like the G1 Climax, doesn't matter too much. But once they want to put Renorita into these big spots again, and that will happen, he defeated the IWGP World Champion, he defeated the New Japan Television Champion, he will get a title match post the G1 Climax, and that is where the match layout needs to hit. And I don't know if the current match works like that. Maybe he needs to add some more intensity to his stuff. I don't know, really. They need to figure it out here, and I hope they do. Then we go to the main event, the rematch from the good but not great Neverweight X AEW International title match at Wrestle Kingdom. We have Shingo Takagi versus Konosuke Takeshita. And of course, considering that Gabe Kidd forfeited his match on day 4. Shingo Takagi is going into this match with a 1-2 record. I would imagine the original plan here was that he's entering with an 0-0, 0-3 record, and is likely winning this match. But I imagine, and I will take this away, that the Gabe Kidd forfeit changed a lot of these results around. And this was just a bombfest main event, and I loved it a lot. Like, this was a proper G1 Climax 2018 Day 8 Hiroki Goto main event style. Like, we did just go at each other at their best. Tons of big spots, elbow strikes, suplexes, everything is just rocked. Like, one of the many lariats Takagi hit was when he was sitting on the top rope, countered it, slid down outside, and just planted Takeshita with the lariat on his neck, and this looked really cool. Shingo in general, like, he started to do like long work on the leg on Takeshita at the beginning, but ditched it pretty quickly. But still, Takeshita sold it while getting up from the tombstone pile driver that he hit, which was like pretty awesome. Like, Takeshi's instincts, and that is what makes a wrestler stand out from others, is like these little things, these little details that he remembers, the little things in matches just make him so good. And I personally just feel like this guy is the dude. Like, I think everyone agrees with that, right? But dude, is he awesome. Then we start off with a multiple lariat collides that Takagi won in the end, hit the burning dragon for good near full. Takeshita follows it up with the raging fire, but wasn't able to get the pin in. And I thought, oh, this might be it for Takeshita. I think this was his last chance. He went for a knee strike, but Takagi fell down. And then Takagi countered the next attempt, hit the Hito Donashi driver, the suplex combination, and the suplex combination from Takeshita, followed up with a pumping bomber, and I expected him to land the Made of Japan and this finished shortly after, but Takeshita hit the Made of Japan of the Sword, another near fall, another near strike to a great near fall. Like, this sequences from like the 17th minute on until the end were like straight up fantastic pro wrestling. Takeshita then locked Takagi in the chicken wing sleeper hold. Takagi nearly passed out, and then Takeshita takes his arm, wraps it around the neck completely, and bites his finger to even more hold the grip tight. And then, of course, Shingo Takagi completely passes out, and Takeshita wins the main event match. Maybe shockingly, because like I said, I expected Shingo to win this one, and this was so well done. The details that both of these guys, especially Takeshita, brought into this were tremendous. Like the biting your fingers to get a choke fully in. It's like, dude, how do you come up with that? It's like so well done and so fantastic. And at some point, and you notice that the way Takagi just stopped writing notes or like little things would happen in the match. And I thought, to give my opinions, like, I thought this was like an extended Wrestle Kingdom, like the extended Wrestle Kingdom matches we expect to Wrestle Kingdom. Like, this match at Wrestle Kingdom, without the time restrictions, it would have another fantastic match on the card that you would need instead of like a good one. But here in the G1 Climax in the main event, they got the time, they killed it. It was easily one of the best matches of G1 so far, if not the best one. I'm unsure where I would rank it. I would definitely rank it in the top 3. So 3-1-1/4 is definitely the rating I'm going for. And I thought this was like must watch, in my opinion. If just like anything you need to watch from this show, then it's this one. Overall, my thoughts on the show was I was pretty down on this card. I don't think this looked like really good, but everything pretty much was at least solid. Like, Yoshihashi versus great, Okan was solid, goodish. El Fantasmo versus NJPW was like really good, and it surprised me because, like I said, I'm not really high on El Fantasmo. Shadow versus Ren was maybe a bit disappointing, but still like a solid enough, a good match, like 3.25 stars. And then in the main event, we had like a top 3 match of the tournament. And I think that kind of like shows how the B block is, right? Like, the bottom of the B block is like solid at best. And sometimes even we had it on the other shows where like sometimes like have the worst match of the tournament. But the top matches of the tournament so far, like 2 of the 3 top matches of the tournament so far, are from the B block. So they are delivering at least in the top matches. And I think we are heading into a very good G1 Climax compared to the last couple of years, as well as compared to what New Japan is right now. So I'm really happy about that so far. I would say this was a good show. I don't know where I would rank it compared to the others. I would say towards above the half, like from the 6 shows, maybe like third, maybe third, yeah, I would say that. But I would need to look into detail about it. Then we go to the stats. And the B block, then of course, with the forfeits of Gate Kids shifted a bit. We have on the first place, tied with 8 points, Renorita and Yoshihashi. Then at 6 points with Jilla Maloney, Great Okan, Konosuke Takeshita, and Shingo Takagi. Shoda Umino, not Shingo Takagi. Then El Fantasmo Zack Jr. at 4 points. Shingo Takagi only at 2 points with a 1-3 record. And his only win so far was against Gabe Kidd, which was like, well, a forfeit. And of course, 0 points Gabe Kidd. And he is now completely out of the tournament. Then at the match times, we have a new number 1, and that is Konosuke Takeshita with 1 hour and 9 minutes and 18 seconds. Average match time of over 17 minutes. Then we have Shota Umino overtaking Taichi nearly with like 30 seconds difference at 1 hour, 3 minutes and 54 seconds. Taichi then with 1 hour, 3 minutes, 29 seconds. On the bottom of the block, we still have, of the active ones, still have Yoshihashi with 30 minutes. And yeah, that is pretty much it. What I think is the most interesting one is Zack Jr. being like 4th with an average match time of 90 minutes and 15 seconds with just 3 matches, right? Like this dude wrestler match less than everyone else so far. And I personally guess that he would end up pretty high after the block stage. Not as high as Konosuke Takeshita, of course, because Takeshita will have much more than Zack. But if he's continuing like that, and this next match is a main event match against Takeshita, which I'm really hyped for, I think he will go towards like pretty close towards the top, even though with 1 match less than Takeshita. And with that, I would say thank you all for listening for the show. I will try to get this up as soon as possible. And with that, we see us tomorrow for day 7. Bye-bye.